So thanks very much. Yeah, so we are PLAN Edmonton, and PLAN actually is an acronym that stands for Planned Lifetime Advocacy Network. So it's an acronym, and PLAN Edmonton symbolizing that we are affiliates of PLAN. So Edmonton joined the PLAN network across Canada in 2002. I was one of the founding members of that group that came back from Vancouver with this really, really neat idea about how to support our family member with a disability, which is when moms become, me being mom, we start asking questions, what's going to happen? Who's going to support my daughter when I'm no longer able to do that? And I'm approaching that period now, but I started thinking about that question when I was, I was so old. Joanne was, my daughter Joanne was probably in her mid-20s to early 30s when I started asking that question, which is kind of the right time to ask that question, or even earlier, when our individuals are just leaving high school. So it's really important. So PLAN is about social connections, which is kind of the theme of the last presentation with
Edmonton Network.
Edmonton Neighborhood.
Neighborhood Watch.
Neighborhood Watch, yeah, sorry. And it's social in nature, right? So we all have our social networks, and typically social services, government funding, all of that type of stuff focuses on support, and they're vital, absolutely vital to have in our children's lives. But they don't focus on anything of a social nature. They think that paid staff will provide enough social connections for our children. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. And so PLAN is about forming that social connection through relationship, not through a paid service, because that's not their mandate, but through a friendship basis, right? So my example, my family, so I have a daughter that has a disability, and I have a son, and I have two wonderful granddaughters who are being very difficult for their parents right now. They are 16 and 15. So Joanne, we started forming the network, and the first thing that we do is find a facilitator for the family. And that facilitator is vitally important because I don't have to go around and ask my friends or people of her age, will you be my daughter's friend? Mm-hmm. That is very unnerving, to say the least. And mom is not the right person to do that in any stretch of the imagination. There's, a lot of guilt placed on both parties, and that's just not very, very meaningful. So that's a little bit about how we start off with a family. Mm-hmm. And we have close to probably 20 lifetime members in our organization, which is parent-led, by the way. But 11, I think, families have active networks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I will turn it over to Jamie Gore, who is our network coordinator, and she manages all the stuff that kind of happens in the office, thankfully, as well as the facilitators. And they are they are the essence of what our organization is really about. So I'll turn it over to Jamie to talk about the facilitators.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Melanie. I started with PLAN Edmonton in 2020, and in July of 2020, and people who have a disability have isolation and loneliness, and the pandemic really impacted all of us, and an important issue for people with a disability became all of our issue. We weren't able to connect, we weren't able to have those in-person interactions, and it really just magnified and illustrated how important relationships are for a good life. And I've really been passionate about PLAN and the work that they do, and recognizing, Melanie had alluded to the fact that PLAN is a family-led organization. And that is a very unique thing because no two, we call them focus people, are the same. And what we offer is an opportunity for them to customize their circle of friends based on their interests, their personality, and their passions. And each family has a different idea of what is a good life. Maybe a person needs one or two friends. Maybe they need a whole group and a big social network. We're not going to tell the people what they want. We're going to provide a service that facilitates their ideas and their goals and their dreams. So that's actually a very unique thing to be family-led, is a really important value that PLAN has. And so my role is called Network Coordinator. And as Melanie said, you know, I do all of the organizing and make sure that between facilitators, there's a continuation of information so that things don't get lost. But I love to meet the families and get to know that focus person and find out what are their goals and their dreams and their interests. And then I work with each facilitator to create that good life. So when Melanie and I were asked to come here and do this, we did have a facilitator that was going to come and share what it is as a role of a facilitator, but she wasn't able to join us this evening. So I wanted to share a few examples of facilitation and the stories behind the people. So I'm just gonna, there you go. I haven't had a mic on since the the before times, so. I'm getting all the nerves out of the way so the last presenters can just be calm. Yeah, so one example of a focus person, when I first started with PLAN Edmonton, she had an incredible facilitator who's been around for 14 years. And this facilitator was meeting with this individual once or twice a month to color. And the facilitator said, you know, I just would really like some direction because I think that I'm missing the mark on what I should be doing with this individual. So we sat down with the parents, and we sat down with the father, and we sat down with the with the home that she belonged to. And we said, there is an opportunity that's missing here. This individual has a community in church, and there's some people that are really could be coloring with her. So the facilitators started to round up all of these individuals and get them together. This was all happening via Zoom, but get them together and start to build those relationships and build those connections. The father ended up getting sick and passing away. And so then the brother picked up the torch and didn't have an understanding of what this facilitator's role was. So we educated the father that, this facilitator is here to help foster that network of friends so that you don't have to do that organizing, that asking. And so what ended up happening is over time, the brother started to recognize the value, and he started to trust more, and he started to hold on differently. This focus person ended up having to move out of her long-time home, and she had to move into long-term care. And during that journey, he relied on the facilitator to make sure that her good life followed her. And the facilitator had unique creative ideas where she recognized that the focus person's home needed to have pictures of her friends. And so when that focus person passed away, the brother really was so incredibly grateful for the network and for the people that came and honored her. And he said, there are so many things that I had no idea my sister did. And to this day, he's absolutely grateful for the work that that facilitator did. Another perfect example, how are we for time? 8 minutes? Yes, excellent. Another great example is of a gentleman who, when first started with PLAN Edmonton, lived with his mom and had no circle of friends and had a passion. He had a passion for airsoft. And so the facilitator recognized what his passion was and started to get him to go to force on force. And so suddenly he had people that had that similar passion, and they started to build relationships there. And now that individual can go there anytime. Everyone knows his name, and he is welcome there, even though he is a very spicy individual and kind of nerve-wracking. People just get him, and they're not afraid of him, and they're not afraid of, who he is as an individual. But the mother recognized that there was a little bit missing, and she was asking that question, what's going to happen when I'm no longer here? He can't continue to live in the basement. He has a great circle of friends, but I'd like to see him living on his own and before I'm gone. So I want to see him in that next place. So about 1.5 years ago, we started to meet, and we recognized that there were people in place, but we wanted to ask them that question. Can you help with this dream of getting this individual into a home of his own? And so a place to go call home is a really important facet of a good life. So a miracle happened, and she was able to find that perfect home, and he just slept his first night in his own home last night. So a week ago, we had 15 people in her living room, and she put together an itinerary and said, how can you help? He's got a tool shop, and he's got all of these force-on-force airsoft gun products that he needs to have, and what would it look like? We did a path, which is what is positive and possible, and how can you help? People often care, but they just don't know how to show up for a person. And so that's what PLAN does. That's what facilitation does, is it helps people realize and achieve their dreams. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you. So I'll open it up for questions in a few seconds, but we are currently a charitable organization that has a working board, and Melanie has been instrumental of keeping PLAN alive, keeping that vision alive with the families. We're currently looking for new board members, and if you are a person that could be someone's friend, you can absolutely become part of someone's network. And just the fact that we're able to come here and hear other stories from other organizations, and just to get a word out about ourselves. We're always going to be interested in making networks for people with disabilities. So thank you so much, Kelly, for letting us come here and present today. We really, really appreciate it. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.